yeah, let's make a start then on this one. So what we've got is, for question 1, we've got a sprinter runs a distance of 400 meters in 44 seconds. Work out the average speed of the sprinter. Okay, so we've got a typical like distance, speed and time question. So we're looking at the average speed and give your answer to 1 decimal place. So once you get these sort of questions, you know that they are most likely going to be in the calculator paper. So you're not expected to work this out in your head. So because it says 1 decimal place as well, so, and looking at the numbers, you won't really be expected to do a calculation with these. So the first thing that we're going to do is draw a that little triangle that you'll probably remember. So we've got distance at the top, okay, speed and time at the bottom. Okay, so it's quite important you remember the places of these 3 parameters in your triangle. Okay, it's easy to remember that you need to draw a triangle, but it's also quite easy to get them muddled up as to where they should be. So if you just remember that your distance is at the top, okay, and then speed and time just go at the bottom. Okay, that's just how I kind of like picture it. It also depends on what sort of a learner you are. So I'm more of like a pictographic learner, so I like to look at things and see where they are, like on a page or on a drawing or on a sketch, however you want to call it, and then I just picture and capture that in my memory. Some other people are like visual learners, some people are learners who like to use sensory things to learn, like the hands and fingers and actions, whereas some like to listen to things and learn that way. But anyways, more on that later. So yeah, I've just drawn this triangle and distance, speed and time. So in this question we've been asked to work out the speed, so I'm just going to cover S with my finger, okay, and focus on seeing what I've got left. Okay, so I know that what I've got left is D, and you can see that I've drawn the lines for a reason as well. That's just to help me understand that if I'm working out D, I'll need to multiply these 2 at the bottom. So the time sign I've just drawn as well, because that's the relationship that we need to use between these 2 to work out distance. And then because in this one I'm working out speed, if I cover S, I've got a line and I've got D and T. That means division. Okay, so that means we're going to be doing D over T. So thank you for the likes, whoever is liking. I just can't tell at the moment because I'm busy doing the maths. So welcome to everyone that's joining. We're just taking a look at some grades 4 to 6 questions. Okay, so this is a collection of all the grade 4 to 6 topics, and just little questions to help you target those topics. So now speed is going to be D over T, okay, and it's just a case of plugging in my numbers in my calculator. So we've got 400 meters for distance, and here in this question it's nice because it's not higher plus, where it's grade 6 and beyond, where you might have to do some conversions in terms of your metric units, but here we don't have to convert anything because we've got seconds, we've got meters, okay, and all we're doing is we're just dividing. So 400 divided by your 44 seconds, because it doesn't really say give your answer in meters per hour or meters per minute, so I can leave it as it is in seconds. Okay, meters per second. So 400 divided by 44, if I do that on my calculator, okay, you can all be doing that with me and letting me know in the answers what you get. So I've got 400, okay, and I'm dividing that by 44. Okay, and I do love this calculator. It's funny how they've kind of changed the way it was since I was using them back in my school days. But yeah, so we've got 9.090909, but we need to give it just to 1 decimal place, so that means it's just 9.1. okay, if we round the 9 up, so it's 9.1 meters per second. We've got to remember to get our units right. Okay, so I'm going to put a box around my answer so that you can see it. Okay, keep it giving it a double tap so that I know that you're following along, and if you have any questions along the way, please don't be shy to leave them in the comments. Okay, I'll try my best to be looking at the comments as well whilst I'm doing my questions as well. Okay, it is a bit hard to monitor both, I'll be honest, but I'll get going. So thank you for sharing, the people that are sharing, and welcome to everyone that's joining, and thank you for liking as well. Okay, now we're going to take a look at question 2. Okay, of the paper, so of the mini test. So question 2 is as follows. It's quite similar to question 1, if I'm honest, but it's looking at density, mass and volume. Okay, so again we've got to use that trick of drawing our little triangle, okay, and then doing it that way. So I'm just going to draw my my little triangle. So we've got we've got mass, density and volume. So a liquid has density of 1.2 grams per ml. Find the mass of 250 ml of the liquid. Okay, so density is this, mass is this. Wait, so we've got density, we've got mass of 250 ml of the liquid. Oh, okay, so they've given the volume and we're working out the mass. Okay, so I need to draw my triangle again, and this time it's going to have different values. Okay, because it's a mass, density and volume one. Okay, but a similar idea as to distance, speed and time, in the fact that, you know, we've got 3 parameters and we're looking at how we can use them to calculate our answer. Okay, again, it's quite important that you know where each position of each of these parameters goes. So again, if you're a visual learner, if you just capture that image, or there was a nice phrase that one of my teachers taught me back in high school. So it was the M was at the top and D and V at the bottom. Okay, so I hope you can see that. I'm sorry, it is a bit tiny because of the space on this paper, but yeah, what she taught me was that if you remember it like this, so don't move Vera. Okay, it sounds a bit funny, but it's actually stuck with me up until now. And you know, I did my GCSEs around, we're talking about 11 years ago. Okay, so I'm giving away my age as well, but so it stuck with me for that long, because if you can, you know, remember something by using like a little rhyme or a little song, it really, really helps, and it does stick with you, provided that you actually, you know, use it over and over again. So if you, you know, sort of remember like a pattern or a phrase or something to remember these initials, even in maths, it's really, really helpful. So I'll just write it down if anyone wants to remember this. So it's don't for D, density, and then move, and then a move for mass, and Vera just for volume. Okay, don't know how she came up with that, but it really helps. And then I just sort of remember that, you know, D's at the bottom, M is at the top and V's at the bottom. Don't move Vera. Okay, and there you have it. Give it a thumbs up if you like that, and if you're going to use that to remember density, mass and volume questions. Okay, and let's move on to actually calculating it. If anyone knows what's going to be the calculation, then please pop it down in the comments. Okay, and I'll check the comments out as well. I'm just trying to adjust my screen at the minute. Okay, so find the mass. Okay, so this time if we're looking at the mass, again I'm going to cover my M and I'm left with D and V. Okay, so that means density and volume. So mass, and because if you remember my speed, density and time one, that one as well, I've got a time sign at the bottom. Okay, so similarly with this one, I'm again going to have a time sign at the bottom. So if I'm working out what mass and I've covered it with my thumb, then I've got D and V left and I'm multiplying them together. Okay, so there's no division happening. So that means my mass is going to be the density, which is 1.2, and simply multiply with that with the volume of 250 ml. Okay, and that's what it is, and then I just multiply them together. Again, this would come in a calculator one. Okay, so you can just use your calculator for this as well. 1.2 is just, you know, testing whether you remember at this point what the formula is and how it goes about. Okay, thank you Penal Trends for your lovely comment, much appreciated. Times by 250 and it gives us a whole number, so 300. Okay, and since it's mass, it's going to be in grams because it's already told us that it's the density is grams per milliliter. Okay, so if you're struggling to work out what the units are, you could just take a look at the other you know, the units that they've used in your other density and volume parameters, and that way you can, you know, calculate and see what the what the unit should be for your other parameter that you're calculating. Okay, so that's the maths done. Again, give it a thumbs up if you're following along, if you're getting it. Also follow me for more lives and more maths content that I do post. I know it's the holidays, GCSEs are finished, but this is for the cohort that's going to be going into year 11 next year, and of course year 10 as well, that are going to year 10, year 9s that are going to year 10. It helps everyone. Okay, so there's nothing wrong with a bit of extra maths in the holidays as well. Let me know in the comments how your holidays are going and how you're sort of structuring, if you're in year 10, how you're preparing yourself for year 11. Okay, let me know so that you can help other people as well, and so if I can help you out as well. So let's go ahead and look at question 3. So we've got, in a class the ratio of boys to girls is 4:3. 30% of the boys are left-handed. So straight away I'm just going to label my ratio in the order that they've told me. So it's boys first and then girls. Okay, so BG. 30% of the boys are left-handed. What fraction of all the people in the class are left-handed boys? Okay, so we're looking at left-handed boys. Okay, so it's not even asking about the girls at all. So 30% of the boys of this 4:3 ratio is going to be left-handed, and we're talking about the question's asking us what fraction of all the people in the class are left-handed boys. So it's this basically, but we're writing it as a fraction. So if anyone's got any ideas, please pop them down in the comments. This is a bit of it looks like a complicated and a bit of a tricky one, but it's actually not that bad. Okay, once you actually think about the question. So first thing what we're going to do is we're going to write down the boys as a fraction. Okay, because once we get it as a fraction, we can then work out 30% of that. Okay, and then take it from there and work it out as a fraction. So let's get it as a fraction first. So we've got 4, and we need to remember how many parts are all together in this ratio. So it's 4 plus 3, therefore that there are 7 parts in this ratio. Okay, so out of 7, every 7 people in the class, 4 of them are boys. That's what this ratio is telling us. Okay, so that's how we write it down. 4 out of 7 are going to be boys. Okay, now from here we need to calculate 30% of this. Okay, of the 4 boys. So if I work out the left-handed, so I'm going to do 30% of 4/7. So to work out, now it looks a bit confusing, but to work out 30%, remember I can change that 30% into a fraction as well. Okay, so I can do that as 3 out of 10 as a fraction in its simplest form, and then multiply that by 4/7. Okay, so if you're working out percentage of anything, you've got to multiply that percentage or that fraction by the other fraction, okay, that we're calculating off. So 3/10 times by 4/7, it's just going to be a case of you multiplying across. Okay, you could be cancelling along, but we're just going to go ahead and multiply it and then cancel in the end, just to avoid a bit of complication or confusion in some people. Okay, so 3 times by 4 we get 12, 10 times by 7 we get 70. So we've got 12 out of 70. Okay, and now we can cancel that down. Okay, so I'm just going to take it over there to kind of make it less crowded over there. Okay, so 12 out of 70, if I simplify that, the numerator, both of these values go into the 6 times table, so we're looking at highest common factor of both of them, so it's 6. So 12 divided by 6 gives us 2, and 70 divided by 6 gives us wait a minute, just checking. 12 divided by 70 does not come in 6 times table. Okay, so ignore me there. It's not going to be 6. That's the highest common multiple. Sorry, I thought it was 60 at the bottom. So change of plans, what we can do is the highest common factor is just going to be 2 in this case, okay, because we've got even number there, and we've got an even number there, but the thing is that 70 does not go into 6. It doesn't go into 4 either, so it goes into 2. So if we just divide by 2, and yet somebody's got it already, so T, that's exactly correct, it will just be 6/35. Okay, and then this you can't really simplify anymore because 35 is odd and 6 is even, so they're not going to go into the 2 times table or the 3 together, okay, etc. So we're going to leave it as that. So that is it in its simplest form. Okay. Okay, so now taking a look at question 4. Okay, so this one, what we've got is a work out the value of x. Okay, so we've got a trigonometry, and the way you can spot that is that you've got an angle given, you've got a right angle triangle, and you've got like another side. If it was like all sides given and a right angle triangle, then that's Pythagoras. Okay, that's how you can work out. A lot of people get confused, am I using Pythagoras or am I using trigonometry? But where angles are involved and right angle triangles, then you know it's most likely that it's going to be trigonometry. So what we're going to do straight away is write down, label our triangle first, and then write down our trig identities. Okay, and I'll show you the way that I like to do it. So the side that's directly opposite to the angle that's given, okay, so not the right angle but the other angle that they've given us, is always called the opposite side. So I'm going to put an O there. Then the longest side is always the hypotenuse. Okay, you might remember that from Pythagoras as well. And then the leftover side is the adjacent. And another way you can spot that that's the adjacent is, you know, one way is if you just label your other sides first and then whatever's left is the adjacent. Or the second way is that if you think about the angle that they've given you, okay, the side directly next to it is called your adjacent side. Okay, that's what adjacent means, right next to something. Okay, so that's another way you can remember that. So now we're going to just write down our Sohka, okay, and Toa. So that's your trig identities. And now it's a case of labeling or ticking the ones that you have already, okay, and the one that you're working out. So I know that I'm working out the O, and I already know what the hypotenuse is. So I'm looking at O and H, which trig identity has both of them. So it's going to be sine that I'm going to use because the other two only have one of the two that I'm looking for, okay? So it's sine. So that means we're going to be doing sine, and the angle is 51 degrees. So I'm going to do sine 51 equals O over H. Okay, so you're always dividing the values by each other. So O over H, O is X, which we're working out, and H is 16. So I'm just going to go and substitute those values in. And then what do we think might be next after that? So what do we think T, if you're still watching, comment down below what's going to be the next step to work out X. All the other people that are watching and joining as well, if you comment down below what you think that the answer might be. Okay, what do you think might have to do with the 16 to work out what X is going to be? Okay, so welcome to everyone that's joining. Just taking a look at this trig question. Okay, I'm guessing everyone is a bit too shy to answer, or we've forgotten a bit of trig over the holidays. Divide by 16 on sine 51. Okay, so we can't, you know, X is already being divided by 16t, so we can't just divide by sine 51 by 16 as well to eliminate 16. Okay, because remember we're trying to calculate X, so we need to get X on its own. So I'm going to actually multiply both sides by 16. Okay, because when I multiply both sides by 16, that's when I can take 16 over and I can actually, you know, eliminate 16 from my right hand side. So I'm going to times both sides by 16, therefore these cancel out and I'm just left with X, okay, and 16 times by sine 51 on this side. So does that make sense for you, T? Let me know. Okay, I'm just going to continue that at the top here, just because of the space. So that means here all I'm doing is just 16 times by sine 51, okay, which gives us, if I do that on my calculator again, okay, so we've got 16 times by sine 51, okay, oops, not this one, and the answer, they haven't told us the accuracy, so I'm just going to say that, you know, round it to one decimal place is always a good idea. So 12.4, okay, is what we will be getting for that. So 12.4, and our unit should be centimeters because of what they've given us for the other lengths, okay, and that's what X is going to be, okay. Okay, brilliant, T. So you're following along. Good that you got it. Okay, so give it a double tap, if you are following along, you're understanding, and any point you've got any questions about any of the, the calculations that I'm doing or the questions, then please feel free to ask, okay? That's what I'm actually here for, to help you out. So don't be afraid to ask for help. So last one that we're going to look at, okay, before I'm going to wrap it up and then hopefully continue this either tomorrow or at some other later point, okay? Just because of the time that it is right now. So let's take a look at question 5 quickly. We've got a standard form one. Write 0.07 in standard form, okay? So again, comment down below if you know what standard form is. So what are the, what's the criteria? If you want to write a number in standard form, does anyone remember what does it have to look like? Okay, there's certain criteria that we've got to follow to change this into standard form. Okay, what do we think it might be? So I'll give us a clue. I'm going to write down the criteria, and then you can probably help me to further clarify what each of these parts actually mean. So it should be in the form a times by, not b to the power 10, sorry, it should be a times by 10 to the power of b. Okay, so 8 times by 10 to the power of b. So what do we think a should be? And what do we think, b can be? So anyone got any ideas about a? What are the numbers that it can actually take, and what are the numbers that it can't actually be taking on? So what do we think? 7 times by 10. Okay, so but what about the power? Okay, we can't just simply write down 10t, but that's a good guess. Okay, so I'll explain it now, okay, so that we all get the idea of what is actually happening. So a is the first part. Okay, to write a number in standard form, first of all, it's basically making sure that you are writing this in a form that's not too small. Okay, so a should be anything that is greater than or equal to 1. Okay, but it's got to be strictly less than 10, so it cannot equal 10. Okay, this number has got to just be a single digit number between 1 and 10. It can equal 1. Okay, it can be 1.1, 1.2, etc., all the way up to 9.9. Okay, but it cannot be greater than that. It cannot be 10 or greater. And then moving on to b. Okay, b is just the power, so that could be a negative power. Okay, for example, like this, because this number is going to be smaller than 1, it's going to have a negative power, okay, to make it actually this small. Or b can be a positive power as well. B just can't be a decimal. Okay, so b is going to be an integer. Okay, so integer just means whole number, and that could be negative, it could be positive. Okay, so now actually taking a look at what our a and b are going to be. So a, to get it into this format, that means I need to have just my 7. Okay, so and there's no other numbers after that, so it's just going to be 7 for this one. Okay, and then times by 10 to the power. Now to fix this, so that once I write in standard form, I want it to go back into its original form as 0.07. Okay, so to get it to be like that, I've actually got to times it by 10 to the power of negative 2. Okay, so I've actually got to go from 7 2 places to the left. Okay, so if I go 2 places to the left, that's when I'll get back to my 0.07. Okay, so give it a thumbs up, a double tap if you're understanding and following along so far. Okay, because this is a bit tricky to get your head around, because we're going suddenly from this to something looking like this, but this is standard form for you. Okay, so T, brilliant. I'm guessing that you are getting it. Everyone else that's watching and joining, please let me know in the comments if you have any questions about it. Okay, but that is the answer for this. So that's what it just means to write a number in standard form. Okay, so it's just 7 times by 10 to the power of negative 2. Okay, so I'm going to leave it there for today. Okay, you're very welcome, T. I hope that made sense for you and you got something out of it. Okay, are you in year 10 or have you finished your GCSEs? What are you up to these days? Yeah, are you just enjoying the holidays, or are you revising, preparing yourself for key stage for year 11 or year 10? Let me know in the comments. I got, but thanks, very helpful. You got so that means you finished your to go, but thanks, you got to go. Okay, that's fine. No problem. So yeah, pop along into the other lives as well that I do after this, and hopefully you can get more help from the other questions that I look at. Okay, so thank you very much everyone joining, and I will no problem, I'll see you all in the next live. Okay, any video suggestions, any content suggestions, please let me know. Okay, or you can either follow me and leave me a message if you want me to do a particular live session or a particular video. Okay, and I'll be more than happy to help you and do that. Okay, so keep the suggestions going, and I'll catch you all in the next one. Have a good night.